Today, we gather to dedicate a stained glass window in the memory of Harold and Audrey Jenkins. They were very active in our congregation, and Harold was a fourth-generation member. Harold's leadership in our congregation included being a Sunday school teacher and superintendent, steward, elder, and at the time of his death, clerk of session. Harold was instrumental in discovering and having installed the St. George's Anglican Church bell when the belfry was built. Audrey expressed her leadership in the congregation as an original and active member of the UCW. She also recorded the minutes of session when Harold was the clerk. They were both actively involved in the building of the addition of the church. Traditional church stained glass windows depict scenes of Jesus or scripture passages. This window is unique because it depicts the lives of two faithful children of God, how they lived, loved, and believed. Their lives are surrounded by their faith as seen in the words of the famous hymn, "Be Thou My Vision," at the bottom of the window, and the cross of Christ at the top. We start the journey of their lives together as we begin to follow the river that runs from the bottom to the top. The river connects Harold's and Audrey's lives together as it flows through the years. The river starts flowing at the bottom of the window, issuing from their faith as it begins with the words, "Be Thou My Vision." At its source we see a picture of Audrey's favorite flowers, forget-me-nots. This is appropriate in this window because with its placement we will not forget them or their participation in our community of faith. Close beside these flowers are trilliums. These are symbols of our province in which both Harold and Audrey were involved citizens and proud to be a part of such an important province in Canada. But these flowers have a deeper significance. Every Mother's Day, Harold would put a small bouquet of them and give them to Audrey. They have been placed in this window to also represent the strong bond of love between them. As the scripture says, "And the two shall become one." So was the love between them. As we flow up the river, we see the red maple leaf. Our faith calls us to participate in our communities and in our country. Harold and Audrey were proud to be Canadians. Their strong commitment to their community, their industry, and their country was a shining example for their family, and they raised their children to develop such commitments to community, country, and God. Flowing further up the river, we see a red barn with silos, which is a replication of the barn in which Harold spent most of his working life. It represents as well the rural way of life that he learned from his father and passed on to his children. Harold understood God's command to care for the world, which he demonstrated in his care for his animals and his land. Continuing up the river, we come to a red brick schoolhouse, the Crossley Hunter SS No. 7, a one-room schoolhouse at which Audrey began her teaching career in 1941. It is here at community gatherings that Harold and Audrey first met, and where their children began and/or completed their elementary school education. Audrey knew the importance of education, and she passed this on to her children. This school was not only a place of education, but the local community center where people gathered for many activities. The hills and mountains near the top of the window, through which the river of life runs, are there to signify the heights that can be achieved when one holds a strong faith, high values, and solid commitments to being engaged in life where you live. The sun just below the cross reminds us God gives us new beginnings each day, something that all of us should remember. Finally, at the top of the window stands the cross of Christ, helping us to remember that faith in Jesus was a fundamental part of Harold's and Audrey's life. It is at the top of the window, towering over all the symbols, to show that their faith was central to their lives and the foundation for their day-to-day life. Let us return for a moment to the hymn title at the bottom of the window, "Be Thou My Vision." This is the first line of an old Celtic Irish hymn that has become a favorite of the family through the years, and has been sung at times of family celebration and sorrow, such as Dave and Maureen's wedding and at Maggie's funeral most recently. This window shows the river of life of two people who sought to live a life of faith, strong values, and a solid commitment. We receive this memorial window, showing the flow of life of two of God's children as they lived, loved, worked, and expressed their faith. We now dedicate it in their memory and for the glory of God.